Look at the sheer density of this architecture. Ancient Mecca was completely isolated by the surrounding desert, yet it operated as one of the most lucrative commercial hubs in the entire region. In this harsh environment, survival was dictated entirely by commerce. Wealth equated directly to social standing, political leverage, and physical safety. Rivers of capital flowed through these physical markets daily. Massive camel caravans routinely arrived carrying high-value textiles, rare perfumes, and exotic spices, generating immense profits for the city's elite. Meccan leadership viewed the message of Islam as an existential threat to this economic monopoly. Their retaliation shifted quickly from theological debate to a coordinated effort to dismantle the new movement's influence. Enduring this backlash required the support of a significant financial and social infrastructure. Ideological resilience alone would not be enough to shield the believers from the coming economic storm. The retaliation eventually took the form of a crushing societal boycott. Early Muslims were pushed into claustrophobic quarters, deliberately cut off from commerce, and driven to the literal brink of starvation. How does a targeted movement with zero external resources physically and emotionally survive its most vulnerable stage? The physical survival of the movement was engineered by Hazrat Khadijah. Her legacy provided the vital infrastructure for early Islam, built on three distinct pillars: faith, sacrifice, and loyalty. To understand the first pillar, we have to look at the immense scale and isolation of the geography surrounding Mount Hira before the first revelation. The physical and psychological weight of the first revelation was massive. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, returned from the mountain carrying a responsibility that no human had held in centuries. Hazrat Khadijah met this moment with immediate conviction. She did not demand physical proof. She recognized the truth of the experience through her own intuition. She immediately provided the deep spiritual grounding that replaced his initial anxiety with a sense of absolute certainty. This validation formed the psychological bedrock required before the Prophet could face the intense hostility waiting in the streets outside. The second pillar was practical and massive in scale. Hazrat Khadijah commanded a business empire where her individual trade caravans often matched the combined output of all other Meccan merchants. This diagram illustrates the Quraysh boycott mechanics. Surrounding Meccan trade routes severed all connections to the early Muslims, freezing access to external supplies. Look at the isolated central node. It survived because Khadijah's wealth acted as the single buffer against total systemic collapse. She began a deliberate liquidation of her life's work. She treated highly profitable commodities and vast assets for basic survival rations to keep the boycotted community alive. Over 3 years, a lifetime of commercial wealth was reduced to empty wooden chests to sustain the community. Her business acumen and absolute liquidation funded the biological survival of the religion's earliest adopters. While the Meccan streets outside were defined by chaotic persecution, the interior of her home remained a space of total insulation. This brings us to the third pillar, wafa, or loyalty. This was not a passive sentiment, but a structural defense mechanism deployed against relentless societal pressure. She leveraged her elite lineage and the deep respect she commanded throughout the city to create a diplomatic shield, deterring immediate physical harm against the Prophet. She maintained an environment of profound respect and internal peace. By deploying her social capital, she created a microgeography of safety. That single household became the incubator needed for the early faith to take root. Ultimately, the embargo failed. Supported by her resolve, the early Islamic movement survived the years of isolation and began its expansion out of the valley. The heaviest years of oppression gave way to a period of growth that would change the course of human history. Khadijah's specific application of capital and social standing directly enabled the movement's survival. She provided the essential resources and protection, allowing the message to endure its most hostile hour. Loyalty, faith, and sacrifice. Her legacy remains a permanent fixture of this history. Her life defines how unwavering support can shield a movement when it is most vulnerable.